it's me, and it's time for Casey at Night. Yes, I so look forward to this every week. I'm so glad you're here with me. Um, okay, so let's just jump right in. Last week, I introduced you to Danielle Light with The Naughty Neighbor's Back Door. And that was a lot of fun. It was a different type of story. It was the introduction to an interracial relationship with the music producer Andre having the Asian girl fantasy and his naughty little neighbor being very kind enough to oblige. And as I'd like to let Danielle know that as of 9:55, she had achieved 584 viewers. Go girl! Very good. Very well done. Very, very proud of you. So glad you let me read your story. So glad that I neglected to read Danielle's bio. Real quick, I want to go over that. Danielle Light is an author living in Tempe, Arizona with her wife and pets. She studied at Arizona State University and received her BA in creative writing. She enjoys reading, water sports, and hiking. Yay, Danielle! So again, Danielle was the Naughty Neighbor's back door. And just in case, because as you know that once this video is complete, I will be posting this video as my pinned tweet. So that being said, if you haven't had a chance to see the Naughty Neighbor's backdoor before I pin this tweet up, you can go to my website, and all the videos, all the stories that I've read thus far will be posted on my website, caseycarterbooks.com. So if you haven't had a chance to see the Naughty Neighbor's backdoor, it will be on the website, caseycarterbooks.com, and tonight's video will become my pinned video for the week. And tonight we are going to be reading Reed James, who on Twitter is NL Publications, and his story for tonight, in case you don't already know, is Genie of Desire. But real quick, just in case it's the first time you've ever joined me, I also write erotic short stories, and one of my favorite characters, who happens to be a favorite of Sophie Kincaid, one of the authors I read a few weeks ago, she happens to like her as well, and it would appear that Kendra, the character from The Encounter and Open House, is gaining quite a bit of a following. And I just kind of wanted to share with you all the origins of Kendra. So Kendra is a real estate broker out of Central Florida. And she basically, as I described from time to time in Twitter, is a beast. She's a beast in the boardroom, and she's a beast behind the steering wheel. She is obsessed with Corvettes, and her most recent obsession is the C7Z06, bright yellow. It's just smoke and fire. And she loves that car about as much as she loves killing it in the real estate business. So Kendra actually is kind of a little bit, if I have to be honest about it, there's a little bit of Casey and Kendra, maybe a lot of Casey, maybe like half, maybe 60%, but there's a lot of that of the Kendra personality that I can kind of sort of claim. And there are these moments, like I think in The Encounter, for example, there's an opening scene that I've read and shared with you before, where Kendra is about to race a guy on the very beginning of I-4, where it connects from the Daytona area from off of 95, Interstate 4, which connects you from Daytona on the East Coast down to Tampa on the West Coast. And there's a large stretch of just, I guess you can say, kind of like dead road where you can go nuts if you've got the right car. And so in that moment where Kendra gets ready to race against this guy driving a Mustang who had been taunting her, she kind of sort of goes to this other place where she just kind of zones out. You know, she's here, but she's not here with you. She's gone somewhere else, and you're going to have to wait for her to come back. And I kind of, you know, someone very close to me kind of, you know, refers to it as going Kendra on you, where she gets into beast mode and everything around her just kind of vanishes. It disappears. It's just this, I'm going to kill you kind of mentality. And I have to admit, I kind of go there myself. So, you know, the point of me saying that is I think for some writers, and I'm going to speak specifically for myself, but you find yourself putting yourself in the pages sometimes. And in the case of Kendra, I have put myself on the pages. I've put myself in the Kendra mode. And I guess that's probably why for some people she's kind of a lot of fun, because you get this sense of this realism in the personality, not just the idea that I've made up a character and she does these wild and crazy things. You know, because there's so much of myself in the character, there's that line where you can kind of believe what you're reading and think, well, not okay. That's interesting. So I'm gonna leave it to you to kind of decide what's fact or fiction. But I definitely encourage you to read Open House. My personal favorite is The Encounter, because The Encounter is filled with so many different sensory type visuals, where, you know, there's the ride in the beginning of the story where she's racing down I-4. There's a moment that I kind of stole from a movie. Oh my God, I'm drawing a blank on the movie, and I'm so mad I'm drawing a blank on the movie. But she's washing her car in the front of her house, and it gets a little interesting. And then there's a party scene that's more like a carnival, kind of a XXX carnival, if you will. And you know, it literally, you can kind of visualize what she must be experiencing with her girlfriends as she walks through this house and sees activity over here and activity over there. And so, you know, if I had to pick a story for you to read, I would definitely say your first Casey Carter story should be The Encounter. And you will come to love Kendra, I promise you. So for tonight, I am introducing you rather to my friend Reed James. Again, as I mentioned, this is Reed on Twitter. And Reed is a part of my retweet group of authors, and he's quite prolific, if you will. He puts out stories quite often. I think he told us like every 1 or 2 days. And I'll be honest, when I first heard him say that, I'm like, okay. And I went to Amazon and looked, and damn it, if he wasn't right, he's putting stuff out like every few days. And I'm thinking, dude, how do you have time to do that? But he's managed to perfect his craft. So like in reading his bio, for example, Reed James is a 30-year-old guy living in Tacoma, Washington. I love to write. I find it freeing to immerse myself in a world and tell its stories and then share them with others. He's been writing naughty stories since high school, furiously polishing his craft, and finally feels ready to share his fantasies with the world. And there's some pretty good fantasies. I've read a little bit of quite a few of them, and fantasy is a good way of putting it, because in some cases you're like, okay, we can't even do that in real life, but okay. He goes on to say, I love writing about women who want to be a little, or a lot, naughty. People expressing their love for each other as physically and kinkily as possible. And women loving other women. Whether it's a virgin experiencing his or her first time, or a long-term couple exploring the bounds of their relationship, it will be hot. It will be a hot erotic story. Now, let me say this, and this is I guess you can say a little bit of a confession. One of the things, if you're a writer, one of the things you do is you read other people's stories. It helps you with your writing. It helps you to see what other people write about, what other people are willing to read. And one of the things I discovered, not every guy can write erotica with a woman as a main character. Okay, there you go. I said it. All right. Some of the writing gets to be a little clumsy in terms of how the woman is portrayed. Now, granted, when women write and we do stories where men are the focus, we do it from a romantic perspective because we're writing these stories for women. So to get a guy who can write a story where the woman is the focal point, the main character, and then write it to where a woman enjoys it, says a lot about the writer. And I have to tell you, Reed thoroughly impresses me from that perspective. He does an absolutely amazing job of writing stories where women are the main character and making you, as a woman, buy into it, buy into the fact that he actually can be in the head of a woman and know how a woman's going to think and talk. And so I really like that about his writing as a man writing about women. So kudos to you, Reed. I like that. I think it's as he says, he's been working on these short stories since he was in high school. It's evident to me he has been putting a lot of effort and energy into perfecting it to the point where, yeah, I can see I can see that. I can very much see that you've put a lot of energy into getting it there. So, without further ado, I'm sorry, I'm trying to work. I told you I'm a one-woman production, and there are times when there are technical difficulties. So I'm getting my reading set up. Okay, so we are now ready for Genie of Desire by Reed James. Light glinted off the brass lamp sitting next to the photo. Kyle still wasn't sure what had drawn him to it. He had been in the antique section of downtown Puyallup picking up his grandfather's watch from a repair shop when he caught a glint through the window. He walked into Curious Treasures, marched right up to the lamp, and when he had touched it, he knew he had to have it. There was nothing special about it. A spark of energy that touched the very core of his being. There was something special about it. A spark of energy that touched the core of his very being. The lamp had been priced $60, the bulk of his spending money for January. He didn't even hesitate to buy it. Kyle still wasn't sure what he would do with it or even why he spent so much money on it. It looked like one of those Arabic lamps from the Disney cartoon, made of plain brass and clearly old, with dents and creases pockmarking the surface. The best use he could come up with was as an incense holder. He pulled out a frankincense stick. His mother had burned them when he was a child, and Kyle was quite fond of the scent now that she had passed on. He lit it and stuck it into the lamp's spout, filling the room with a sweet, piercing scent. He dropped his pants, stretched out on his bed, found his grimy sock, and jerked his cock. He imagined Christy kneeling on his bed, her tongue lapping at his shaft, while her hazel eyes looked adoringly up at him. Then Faiza would walk in and join his girlfriend. Her tongue, the whooshing sound jolted him out of his fantasy. He looked around his room for the source. Panic surged through him as thick smoke poured out of the lamp, whirling into the center of his room. Then he froze. What kind of smoke was yellow? A dusty smell, like sand baked in the sun, hit him, reminding him of the family trip to the Grand Canyon before his dad's last deployment. The yellow smoke, it's like dust, swirled down to his floor, staying in a tight mass. His jaw dropped, too stunned by the dust's strange behavior to be scared. It gathered in a single cloud, about the size of a curled up person, whirling faster and faster, howling like a fierce storm. The hair on his arms stood up, static electricity charging the air. The dust coalesced like a star being born in a nebula. Instead, a young woman was born. She was his age, about 19, with midnight black hair that draped across her dusky skin, dark like Kyle's, but more olive than his brown. Yellow silk pantaloons clad her legs, so sheer he could see her dark thighs bleeding through where the fabric rested on her flesh, and a sheer yellow vest. Her nipples were dark brown, easily visible through the fabric, and the green embroidery on her vest's bosom seemed designed to draw the eye to her beauty. Her eyes were closed. Her face was beautiful, covered by a translucent yellow veil. Her lush red lips shadows through the thin material. Her dark eyelashes fluttered at him. On the back of her hands were intricate tattoos, geometric lines forming a complicated pattern inked with brown henna. Like marriage tattoos. Kyle's mother had temporary tattoos drawn on her hands before her marriage. If you looked carefully at her wedding photos, you could make the delicate designs out on the back of her hands. The woman's eyes flashed open, sultry and dark. She sat up, stretching, thrusting her round breast forward, her nipples dark points through the sheer silk. They were larger than Christie's, grapefruits to his girlfriend's oranges. Her eyes flitted around the room, then settled on him. Her smile grew. Her eyes widened, and a dark blush suffused her delicate cheeks. Blood flooded his cock, expanding it in a heartbeat like a car's airbag. She bowed, speaking respectfully and rapidly in Arabic. He blinked, only catching one word in 10. He didn't know much of his mom's language. He stammered. She looked at him and asked another question. Her voice was musical and soothing. I don't speak much Arabic, he finally spat out. What's going on? She came out of the lamp? His eyes widened. Is she a genie? Her look was confused. Great. She doesn't speak English. I'm half Japanese, half Kurdish, and the only language I speak is English. She asked another question, her syllables merging together as she rapidly spoke. Then a frown appeared on her face. Then more questions, a deluge of meaningless sounds as beautiful as a bird's song and just as incomprehensible. She switched to languages, and it sounded a little like Greek. He sighed. I wish you spoke English. And not at all how I expected this to go. I would have. Her voice trailed off. You can understand me now, my husband? Yeah. Wait. Did she just call me husband? I'm glad you made that wish, she smiled. Wish? So you are a genie. His heart beat in excitement. Yes, I am Jinn, Yusuf. Jinn was one syllable when she said it, and far more beautiful than genie. I am Aliyah of the Jan tribe, daughter of Sheikh Umar, and by ancient tradition present myself as your bride. Kyle's mind whirled. An actual genie or jinn or whatever? Oh, crap. I wasted one of my wishes. So you're here to grant me wishes? Aliyah frowned. No, well, yes, I have some limited powers, but surely the letter from my father explains all of this. You're a genie. You grant 3 wishes to whomever frees you, right? Right? That's what all the stories say. Well, I want $1 billion. The words tumbled out of his mouth before he could even think things through, but excitement gripped him. I'm afraid I can't do that, she answered, her voice contrite. Why not? You're my genie. I'm here to serve you, Yusuf, but there are limitations to my power. Why do you keep calling me that? Is it a title? My Arabic is very bad. She frowned at him. It is your name, right? You are Yusuf, right? Nope, I'm Kyle Unme Jr. What a foreign name. She peered at him, then nodded. I can see the Far East mix in your face, but this language sounds European. I don't understand, she frowned. I'm sorry, this language sounds European. It's English. I don't understand, she frowned. But only my bridegroom or one of his blood could have. Oh my. How long have I slept? It's 2014. She shook her head. It's the European calendar. Sorry, I was never taught that. Kyle thought for a moment. So who is this Yusuf guy? He asked. Maybe that can help pin it down. Was he famous? A Kurdish man, destined for greatness, Aaliyah answered. I was told one day he would be called Salah ad-Din Yusuf ibn Europe when he ruled the caliphate. Salah ad-Din, Kyle muttered, chewing up the words. That sounds kind of, wait, Saladin? He died like 1,000 years ago. That was during the Crusades or something. He vaguely remembered the fact from an Assassin's Creed video. Aaliyah's face fell. You must be his descendant, Kyle. She looked him up and down critically, then nodded. His task has fallen to you, my husband. The hidden people have been enslaved to the Mirid tribe. You are our only hope. Fuck, he muttered. This was starting to sound like a video game or Star Wars. By your 20th birthday, you must present yourself to Sahaba and claim the throne in my name. Sahaba? Is that in Saudi Arabia? It is everywhere and nowhere, Aaliyah answered. It is the capital of the jinn. This has got to be a dream, Kyle gaped, pinching his arm. He didn't wake up. She scooted closer. It is no dream, my husband. Her hands touched his thighs, and he realized he was naked from the waist down. Her dark eyes gazed at his hard shaft. He throbbed as she licked her lush lips. Her warm breath blew across his cock when she exhaled. Everything went out of his head at that moment. The fact that she was a genie, her cryptic words about a task, the girlfriend he loved. Nothing mattered except that a hot girl was inches from his aching cock. Would you like to use my mouth for relief, my husband? Aaliyah purred. Or would you like to take my maiden head? Christie's smiling face appeared in his mind. I have a girlfriend. Girlfriend? She mouthed the words. Ah, such an interesting concept. I do not see the problem. I am your wife. It is only proper that I relieve your needs. I am well versed in the arts of the sign, the pillow, though no man has ever touched me. But she's my girlfriend. I know, confused marred her face. You are destined for greatness. Of course there will be other wives. You will need 4 before you can claim the throne. A strangled sound escaped his lips. 4? A great man must have 4 wives, she answered. Proof of his power. Now relax, my husband, and let me relieve you. Her veil melted away. Then her mouth engulfed his cock. She was warm, so wonderfully warm. And her tongue was agile, swirling around his cock as she sucked. A girl's mouth on my cock. A real-life woman or jinn or genie, whatever, is sucking my cock. He came. He leaned back, gripping the sheets. The pleasure was so intense, far better than anything his hand had ever generated. It drove all thoughts of his girlfriend and his guilt out of his mind. It was rapturous. He heaved, looking down at the girl, the genie, who just gave him his first blowjob. She had a pleased smile and a bemused look in her eyes. White cum stained her lips. That wasn't, unpleasant, Aaliyah smiled, salty and a little bitter. She rose up, leaning in to kiss him. He flinched back. There's cum on your lips. Oh, right. She nodded and cum vanished. All better. Her kiss was soft and timid, much like Christy's had been the first time. For all Aaliyah's talk of training, she was quite inexperienced. Memory of Christy's bone-melting kiss in the car plagued his conscience. Kyle loved his girlfriend, but Aaliyah's ardor was making it hard to remember that fact, and his own lust was quickly drowning out his guilt at betraying his girlfriend. His hands grasped her sides, and he found her naked. He slid higher, expecting to feel her silk vest. Instead, he found her ripe grapefruits. Where did her clothes go? Her breasts were softer than Christy's, but her nipple felt smaller, tiny buds compared to the fat nubs he felt on his girlfriend's breast not even an hour ago. Aaliyah mewled into Kyle's lips as his fingers pinched her nipple and wiggled on his lap, his hard cock prodding the softness of her rear. Her hand rubbed at his bare chest. Where did my shirt go? Her fingers traced his pectoral muscles. ROTC and kendo kept him in shape. She giggled and cooed, clearly enjoying his definition. So strong, my husband. A warrior's body. His blood boiled, going straight to his cock. He didn't care about anything right now, least of all his girlfriend. He had to fuck the lithe, beautiful creature in his arms. He had to finally get laid. She didn't resist as he lowered her onto her back. Her black hair fanned out across the pillows and comforter. Aaliyah's hands found his cock, stroking it gently as she guided Kyle between her spread thighs. Take me, my husband. Why does she keep calling me that? His cock brushed the petals of her flower, damp with her passion's dew, and that question didn't matter. A spicy scent filled his nostrils, exciting him and driving him to plunge into her silky wetness. His first thrust missed, his cock sliding up through her lips, bringing a wet moan as he brushed her clit. Then he slid through the silkiness of her neatly trimmed black bush. He almost came again. He drew back, taking a breath, and moved his cock lower, pushing slowly until he felt her wonderful folds spreading around him. Sensations poured through him as he savored his first taste of pussy. He wanted to push into her, but something stopped him. Soft like tissue, an obstacle keeping him from his goal. He thrust harder. She gasped as it gave way before him. Then he was all the way inside her, his balls resting against her taint. Rapture, pleasure, amazing, hot and wet. And that was an excerpt from Genie of Desire by Reed James. Now, I think I've mentioned before that my first introduction to Reed's work was about a group of girls referred to as Fuda. Now, I neglected to get you the original definition of this word. Fuda is actually short for something else. Let me see if I can find that real quick for you. But that is what I have to admit kind of drew me into Reed and his writing style, because he was writing about something that is so, dare I say, unheard of, but just, I don't know, it just caught me, you know, these women and their mix of genitalia. That's all I'm gonna say. Go to Amazon. I'm gonna put up a link when we're done. I want you to go to Amazon, and if nothing else, read the samples of those stories, the Fuda stories. If you're gonna have one of two reactions, you're gonna want to read more, like I did. Naturally, it's not something I would have normally read, but I had to read more because I was absolutely fascinated. Even though it was a concept I was unfamiliar with and not necessarily my cup of tea, I couldn't help but read because he's such a great writer. That in and of itself kind of drew me in. So this is Reed on Twitter, NL Publications, and I'm going to post him buy links, his bio, well, not the bio, but some other links for you to be able to follow him. And he's just, I'm sorry, like my friends in my little retweet group, I kind of gush about all of them in one way or another, but I have to be honest, there's just this creativity of the mind with Reed's stuff that just really caught my attention. So I'm gonna see if he'll be nice enough to let me read a Fuda story, because as much as I love the Genie, I want to read a Fuda story. Reed, please let me read a Fuda story. I want to introduce everybody to Fuda. Okay, now that I've begged, I want to kind of get you set for what's coming in the next few weeks. And I'm really very excited about this, because this has been affording me the opportunity to share with you my stories, share with you the stories of my friends, but to also introduce you to people that I happen to meet as I check my timeline. And someone that stunned me with absolutely gorgeous photos was Joanna Armstrong. And next week, I will be reading something from Joanna. Joanna, I don't know if Joanna would refer to herself as a writer, but I would definitely say Joanna is an amazing photographer. I'm going to see if I can get her to share with me some photos that I can share with you during the course of the week, or I can just at least make sure that we post these photos so that you can see what a great eye she has. I mean, my own oldest child will be leaving for college in the fall and is going to be studying photojournalism. And it's amazing how people can stand behind a camera and one person can see one thing and someone can see something completely different and capture an image that leaves you kind of awestruck, and everybody can be looking at the exact same thing. So Joanna is going to be our guest author for next week. But, and again, this is Joanna on Twitter. But just the other day, I came across someone who retweeted a tweet of mine, and there was something that struck me about this person, and her name is Marion Brooke. And on Twitter, she's Marion T. Brooke. And when I followed to her profile, I clicked and read some of her work. She had quite a few poems. And up until this point, I've been doing short stories, excerpts from novels, short stories, whatever. And when I read some of her work, hi, Ty. When I read some of her work, I'm like, oh my God, I've got to share. Because even though there is the absolutely kinky side of my brain, there is the super sappy romantic side. And I was just talking about this with some of the ladies in the group. There is that super sappy romantic side that sometimes gets off just as much on that connectedness. And she wrote this one poem that I insisted she let me read, and as it turns out, she wrote it about her spouse, who I think she said it was like 20 years ago she wrote this poem for him, and they are still together, and as she put it, they still go at it like tigers. And that just made me giggle. So Marion T. Brooke, I'm going to introduce her next week with a poem, and probably there was another piece I read that I'm going to read in another couple of weeks. So next week is going to be Joanna and Marion. And then the following week, May 3rd, I am going to introduce you to Bernard Foon, author of A Harem Boys Saga. This is Bernard on Facebook. I'm sorry, Twitter. We're on Twitter. This is Bernard on Twitter. Okay, Young Foon 8. Okay, so clearly I like to gush over these people because anything that I'm interested in like that, I just get very excited about it. And Bernard is someone I ran into last year, and he I'm not even really 100% sure how we crossed paths, but we did. And we, exchanged some communication. I read his stories. So beautifully written. Just very romantic and sensual. And to top it all off, a basically story of his life. And that made it even more interesting. And so, like, I'm dying to introduce you to a Harem Boys saga. There's multiple stories within the collection, and he's giving me the option of picking whichever one I want to read, a lot, a little, or whatever. So I'm going to choose wisely, and then hopefully you will go and read more. And he's so absolutely wonderful. He is currently in Hawaii, so I'm not 100% sure if he's watching or not, but he's just a lovely person. Some of the writers that you encounter aren't so friendly. It's almost like, you're competing for readers, and so they don't want to interact with you. But he's absolutely wonderful. The people that I've read to you so far, they're all absolutely wonderful. I encourage you to reach out to them, whether it's on Twitter or Facebook or what have you, and just kind of support their work. So again, next May 3rd is going to be Bernard Foom. Next week is going to be Joanna and Marion, and I've got some other things in the works. I'm really very excited about this. I think I've added another 3 to the schedule. I'm just kind of waiting to get the material so I can say that they're kind of locked in for sure. But I enjoy doing this. I enjoy reading the stories. I enjoy sharing this with all of you. And, I'm sorry. I have in my notes. I have to make notes because remember I mentioned in the beginning about the whole Kendra and she goes somewhere. I had to start making notes that I have to follow, kind of like a script, because once I start reading the stories, Kendra kicks in and I'm gone. And I forget all the stuff I'm supposed to do after the story because I get a little amped up, I get a little hyped up. So I'm looking at my notes and I forgot May 10th. And I've mentioned this writer to you before, I believe, Luscious Lee. And she has written a series of stories referring to room 222, all this activity that occurs in room 222. Again, came across her in my Twitter line, and I loved the concept that there's this room, this nasty little motel room where all this little kinky stuff goes down, room 222. She and Marion again are going to be on May 10th. Okay, now I've completed my notes. See? So I want to thank you all tonight for supporting, for showing up for the videos. Like I said, I'm about to pin this video. I'm going to send you the links so that you can buy Genie of Desire, so that you can learn a little bit more about Fuda and read some of those stories from my good friend Reed James. And again, if you missed this, if you missed Danielle's video from last week, or if you just want to see some of the other videos that we've done, or by all means, go to my website, CaseyCarterBooks.com. At the top of the website, you want to look for the tab that says Casey at Night. You click that, and you will see not all the videos yet. I haven't uploaded everything, but I've uploaded the stories that I've done so far. So again, you want to go to CaseyCarterBooks.com, look for Casey at Night. That will get you to the videos of the stories. And then there's another tab at the top that says Episode Store. That will get you to where all my stories are and the links up to Amazon. Little brief synopsis and everything. So again, CaseyCarterBooks.com. Check out the video for the video of my friends, the stories that we've read, and I will see you next week. As I like to say, I love you like a fat kid loves cake. Bye.